Hello class. Sorry about the other short video that cut us, but let's continue. Welcome again to Study Wave Academy, where education is without limits. Let's continue exploring these parts of speech. Let's continue looking at our major focus on today on nouns. We've talked about a lot of things on nouns, and right now we're looking at the functions of noun. So I talked about the first function being direct object, the next function being indirect object, the next one being object of a preposition, and the next one being subject complement. And right now I was looking at the other function, the appositive, before I was cut short. And let's continue. Let me just explain this. So look at this sentence. My friend Alice loves to travel. So appositive nouns just add additional information about another noun, okay? So you can as well say here, my friend loves to travel. My friend loves to travel. It is simply a correct sentence, very correct, but because you want to use the appositive nouns and add an additional information to it, you say something like, my friend Alice loves to travel. Now she's not just your friend, but she's your friend Alice, okay? So when you say, my mother is a doctor, it's a correct sentence and very complete. But because you want to use the appositive nouns, you will go ahead and say, my mother Helen is a doctor. Look at that. So appositive nouns are just nouns that add additional information to the nouns we're talking about, okay? Now let's continue and look at the next function here. There are very many functions, and I want us to look at as many functions as we can, because I want us to learn, I want us to understand, and even be the best grade 7 class to easily identify these nouns given any situation. So the next function is direct address. Nouns can be used in direct address, where someone is directly spoken to in a sentence. For example, John, please pass the salt. Look at that. You are this one is what do we call this? It's like a correct or a direct sentence that someone is speaking. And how do we call it? A conversation. So this one here is a conversation, and it's a direct conversation here, okay? So John, please pass me the salt. Mary, come here. Helen, do this. Or John, go do this. Or so here you're just talking directly to someone, and that is another type of the sentence. It's like having a conversation with someone. So in our example here, I've said something like, John, please pass the salt. So John here is directly, or is being directly addressed in the sentence, indicating who the speaker is talking to. So whoever is speaking, we don't know, but whoever is speaking is directly addressing John and telling John to pass the salt, okay? So direct address, that is another function of noun, where you use them in direct addresses or conversations that you're talking to someone directly, okay? Let's continue and look at our last function, and that is possession, showing ownership. So possession is ownership or showing ownership. So nouns can demonstrate possession by using possessive nouns. And when you want to show possession of something, we use this apostrophe. Let me show you here. So you see this apostrophe here above S? This is how we show possession, or we use the word of. This is the dress of Mary, or this is the dress of Mary, this is the book of someone, okay? So we use the word of to show possession, and we also use this instead of to show possession. So for example, in our sentence, that's Mary's book, or that is Mary's book, that is Mary's book, that's Mary's book. So you find that Mary here, the S and the apostrophe and the S here, let me underline it to show you. So this word, the apostrophe and the S here, just show possession. It shows that the book belongs to Mary. The book does not belong to anyone else but Mary, okay? So Mary owns this book. John's bag was lost. So the apostrophe and the S that comes at the end of the name John shows possession. So who is the owner of the bag is John. Okay, so that is another function. So class, we've looked at various functions here. I'll just go back through them very fast, just mentioning them. The first function is direct object. Next is indirect object. We also looked at subject. So we have subject, we have direct object, we have indirect object, we have object of a preposition, we have subject complement or predicative nominative. Okay, we have appositive, we have direct address, and lastly we have possession or just showing ownerships. So after understanding the functions of nouns, looking at the key points to consider, up to this level, who doesn't really understand what nouns do or what nouns are? So I believe that right now we can easily tell what nouns are and understand them. So now let's move on and look at the types of nouns. So right now we know what nouns are. We know their function. We know what they do. So all this, after understanding all this, let's now look at the types of nouns. The types of nouns, the different categories. I have looked at this, but just in an overview manner. But right now I want us to dig deep and look at these types of nouns. And the first type is common nouns. I talked about common nouns being general names for people, places, things, or ideas. So general nouns like mothers, girls, countries, boys, colors. Okay, all these are examples of common nouns. Any noun that has a general name for places, for people, for things, or an idea is called a common noun. Because from the word common is just something that is general, something that is found everywhere. For example, mother. We have different mothers. We have a lot of mothers in this world. For example, country. We have a lot of countries. Places. We have a lot of places. So nouns, we have the first example there as a type of the noun, and that is category. So that is the common noun. Okay, the common noun. The next category is the proper noun. What is a proper noun? So a proper noun here names an individual people or individual places. So proper nouns will name individual people, will name places, will name things, and we usually capitalize them. So let me tell you what I'm trying to say. So when you come to proper nouns generally just tell us about people. They tell us about, they give us specific ideas or specific people. So right now what I'm trying to do, class, I'm just introducing you to the types of noun. So right now I just want us to mention them and just give you an overview of what they are. Then we will now get deep into it and now look at the common nouns deeply and understand it. So don't worry. So the first one is the proper noun, where I've said they just name specific or individual people, places, things, and usually every time, any single time you are writing, this is for writing. So anytime you're writing a proper noun, you capitalize the first letter. The next type we have concrete nouns, and I talked about concrete nouns referring to tangible nouns or physical entities that can be touched. Okay, then we have abstract nouns, and for the abstract nouns they present intangible ideas or intangible concept qualities. So these are things like love, things like justice, things like poverty. All these are in abstract nouns. Abstract nouns are things we can't see and we can't touch. The next type is the countable nouns. The countable nouns are nouns that can be counted both in singular and plural. For example, one person was in the room, 10 people are in the room. These are 2 chairs, those are 10 chairs, there is 1 chair. So nouns that you can count are called they're called countable nouns. Again, tangible nouns too can be counted, so there's no problem with that. So remember that we have tangible nouns, and right now I'm talking about countable nouns. From just the word countable, these are nouns that can be counted. You can count people, you can count countries, you can count chairs, you can count a ball or balls, okay? You can count pencils or pens. So countable nouns are nouns that can be counted, both in singular and plural. The opposite of this is the uncountable nouns, and these are nouns that cannot be counted. They represent substances, concepts, or qualities that can be counted, and this will be corresponding with something like the abstract nouns, where we talk about peace. You can't count peace. When we talk about water, for example, water is an uncountable noun, and you can't count water, okay? You can't count water. You can't count milk, but you can count the packets. So that is a different thing. When you're talking about a bottle of water, you're talking about the bottle here, so you can count the bottle. But when you're talking about just water, you can't count water. You can't count milk. You can't count yogurt, okay? You can't count some things, and those are the uncountable nouns. You can't count sugar. You can't count salt, okay? So these are nouns that you can't count. Do not forget that. The next types, we have the collective nouns. This refers to a collection of people, animals, or things. So when you talk about a group of people, that is a collective noun. A herd of cows. So those are terms I know you've come across even in your science classes or other classes. You talk about collective nouns. A group of people, a herd of cows, a belt of this, a pack of this, okay? So these are countable nouns. Nouns that are placed in a collection, where we can have a collection of people, collection of animals, or even things. The next one, we have compound nouns. That's another type. And with the compound nouns, they are formed by combining two or more words to create one single noun. For example, we will look at these examples to just relax. Right now I'm trying to introduce the concept, okay? So we have compound nouns, and I've talked about compound nouns being the ones that are combined. For example, you have I'm trying to think of a good example that everyone will understand. We have the word city and we have the word clock. When you put them together, you'll get city clock. Look at that. Very, very easy. So you have one noun and another noun, but you combine them together to form one noun that everyone uses, and that is what we call compound nouns. So for example, we have city clock, okay, or city clocks. So don't forget about that. City is a noun, clock is a noun. When you combine this, you find one noun, or you find a specific noun, city clock, okay? The next one, we have the gerund, okay? Gerund is also another type of a noun, and I know this is not so common and most of us haven't heard about it, but gerund is another category, and this is a noun formed from a verb by adding ing, representing an action or activities. For example, swimming is a gerund noun. So you'll find that people will talk about let me give you a sentence here. Swimming is my favorite hobby. Swimming is my favorite hobby. You see, when I start my sentence like that, the subject of my sentence is swimming. Now swimming becomes my noun here. We call it a gerund noun, whereby we make verbs become nouns by adding ing. For example, when you say singing is my life, or singing is my talent, okay? When you talk about this, you are basically changing this verb into a noun by adding ing, and that is what we call the gerund nouns. Very, very easy to remember and very, very easy to work around them. Then lastly, we have verbal nouns or infinitive nouns, okay? Again, this I know maybe it's not common to you, but I'm introducing it in my lesson. So with the verbal nouns, they are nouns that are formed from the base or formed from the base form of a verb, and used to express actions in an abstract way. So these are nouns formed from the base form of a verb, okay, and used to express actions in the abstract way. So these are the different categories we have for nouns, and right now I will go now and look at each one of them in depth so that we can well understand it and not get confused. So we have the common noun, okay, we have let me look at them again. We have the common noun, we have the proper noun, we have the concrete noun, we have the abstract noun, we have the countable noun, we have the uncountable noun, collective noun, compound noun, gerund nouns, and the verbal nouns or the infinitive nouns. So now we're going to focus on each one of them and understand what they are. So we're looking at them